I am coming to you live today from San Pedro de Leandro, Mexico, which is a small little village between Tequila and Amatitan. And we're at the Don Atanasio Distillery. This is the distillery that makes Don Atanasio as well as Cazcanes. And we're going to give you a tour right here on the Tequila Hombre, coming up next.
Hi, how you doing? I'm John Paul Fortunati, CEO of Cazcanes Tequila. Welcome to the Don Atanasio Distillery.
Now here we are at the front gates of the Don Atanasio Distillery. And as you enter the distillery, hand sanitizer, since we are facing COVID right now. But on the left, you'll see a bunch of tools that are used for shaving and harvesting agave plants, which is really cool. Old time, and even they're using some of them even today. And then as you move over to the right, you'll see pictures of barrels that are used to age tequila, as well as pictures of Atanasio tequila bottles, and some hijuelos, which are baby agave, which they will then plant in the field to grow bigger agaves for tequila. Further up on the right hand side of the distillery, they have the original barrel room that they used here for aging, and we'll take a look at other parts of the distillery next. Alright, as you come up the driveway, the first area you come to is the area where they actually process the agave. So they'll dump the agave here and split them and take out the bitter core in the top of the agave and get them prepped for cooking. In the same area, they have the boilers for creating the steam that's used for the autoclaves. They have a chiller in the corner over there. And at this end is their stainless steel stills. So then when you come from outside, you come in and you'll notice the autoclave here. This is where they cook the agave. That door on the outside normally is open when they're feeding agave into the autoclave to cook. But we'll take a look at this autoclave and show you more about what this does. So an autoclave is a big cylinder pressure cooker. And what they do is they load the agave inside this tube and they'll pile it on top of this grate. And the grate allows for some of the syrups and stuff to drip down to the bottom and get out of the to be pulled out of the batch later and used. They use them for different things. Sometimes they add it to fermentation. Sometimes they'll just discard it. But they will cook inside this autoclave either under high pressure or low pressure to get the agave starches converted from starches to sugar. Now, Atanasio uses high pressure, and so does Cazcanes. Both of them use high pressure at this distillery. So this is what the inside of an autoclave looks like. It's basically the same thing as an Horno, except that you can pressurize it. Alright, so next to the autoclave we have what's called the roller mill. And here, after the agave are cooked, they're taken out of the autoclave over there and dropped into the shredder unit here, which then shreds the agave and allows them to run up a conveyor belt here, where then they're sprayed with spring water, and then for Cazcanes they actually truck in their spring water, and then it presses the agave fibers, draws all the sugars out, and then dumps the spent fibers here outside the other side of the roller mill. And that's how they extract the sugars out of the agave fibers. And you can see this is what agave fiber looks like after it's done with the sugars extracted from it. It's a very fibrous plant. So after the sugars are extracted into the mosto, it's collected here in this bin underneath the roller mill. You can see it right here. And then comes through a pipe underneath the roller mill and gets pumped into the stainless steel fermentation tanks. So these tanks are filled up with the sugary water. Let's go up and take a look. Filled up with sugary water, and this is where they ferment it, where they turn all those sugars into alcohol, carbon dioxide, as well as other things that the yeast produce as a byproduct of fermentation. So they have 5 big fermentation tanks here at the Don Atanasio Distillery. And with Cazcanes and both Cazcanes and Atanasio, it's fermented using wild yeast, so they don't pitch yeast into it. They just let the natural yeast in the air ferment the mosto. So this is the distillation area. This still here is for the primary distillation, and this one here is for the secondary distillation. So what happens is they'll put the spent mosto into the alembic number 1, and then they'll heat the mosto up, the dead mosto, and evaporate the alcohol out of it, and the alcohol will rise up this tower and go into that pipe at the top, and then it comes into the building here, where it comes down this cooling column and is converted back from a vapor into a liquid. And it comes out this pipe here, and then it'll be a liquid form here, and they normally will float a hygrometer in here that will tell you the alcohol content of what's coming out of the still. And then the ordinario, which ordinario means it comes from the first distillation, is then put into this tank here. So after it is done with creating the ordinario, they then send it to that second still I showed you in the front, and they distill it a second time, and again it comes out the still into this cooling column, comes down, and it is pumped into a second tank, which is called the rectification tank, and this is the second distillate. This is when it's ready to actually be bottled and consumed as tequila. So after it is done with here, it is then put into holding tanks on the side, where they'll hold it and get it ready for bottling or for aging if they're going to be putting it in barrels. In another area off to the side of the distillery is their water area. This is where they do reverse osmosis of the water for the Atanasio tequila line to use in creating the Atanasio. And for Cazcanes, you come down the stairs out of the water room here, and Cazcanes actually trucks their water in from a different area, their spring water, and they store them in these tanks here, which then they'll use for creating Cazcanes. And that's one of the things that differentiates Cazcanes from Atanasio. So it's not the same juice, it's completely different juice. Okay, further down the side of the distillery, we then head into this area, which is the bottling area. So first we have a bunch of tasting glasses, so I'll be drinking from each one of those glasses here in just a couple of minutes. So I should be feeling pretty good later. I'm joking. I'm not an alcoholic. I just play one on TV. Now, this machine over here is used for rinsing the bottles. And they actually use tequila to rinse the bottles to make sure that they're sanitized and clean and ready to go. It uses high pressure to pump tequila in and out of the bottles to clean them, to make sure they're ready so we don't get any nasty infections or dirt in our tequila when they bottle it for you. And these are all the boxes they store the bottles in. And then this is the bottling machine here. So they load the tequila through the pipes and stuff you see coming from the wall. It's actually in a tank up here. and they use gravity down into the machine, and they'll basically put a bottle up in the filler. It fills the bottle up, they cap it, and then they put it on the table, which then will be labeled and placed into boxes. So this is the bottling area. This is their bottling system right now, but they told me that they have a new bottling, a high-tech, larger quantity bottling machine that's been purchased, and it's on the way. So this is the bottling area. So coming out of the bottle area, we're back into the main courtyard. And then over in this area over here, we have a small still, which you can kind of get an idea how distillation works with. I think they do a little education here and showing you. And then this is the tasting area, where we have these really nice young ladies here that are going to be sampling some tequila and seeing what the fantastic tequila at Atanasio and Cazcanes are like. And this gentleman here to my right is one of the owners of Atanasio. And so you can come and sample tequilas and see what they're like, and I'm sure they'll even let you purchase some bottles if you want. And there you have it. There's a tour of the beautiful Don Atanasio Distillery. Just make sure you sanitize your hands, and you have an Uber pick you up after leaving. Joking, Uber doesn't come out this far. There you go. There's the distillery. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, like I always say, life is too short to drink bad tequila, so anything from Don Atanasio should be perfect.